What happens when you're a 52-year-old Pawnee man in 1867 who accidentally became the most powerful medicine man in 4 territories, not through spiritual gifts or sacred training, but because you pretended to have a vision at age 22 to impress a girl, and then every single random guess you made afterwards miraculously came true, and now you're responsible for healing the sick, predicting the future, and guiding your people through the most dangerous period in our history, while secretly having absolutely no idea what you're doing? For 3 decades I've been mixing herbs based on which ones smell nice, making prophecies by saying whatever feels right in the moment, and performing healing ceremonies I'm literally inventing on the spot, and I have a 90% success rate that has made me legendary. Chiefs from 5 tribes consult me. The US government negotiators specifically ask for my presence. People travel for weeks to receive my wisdom. And I'm terrified every single day that someone will discover I'm a complete fraud who has somehow stumbled into being genuinely effective through pure luck and desperation. Before I tell you about the time I accidentally predicted a solar eclipse by trying to sound mystical, and what I finally learned about the difference between knowledge and wisdom, less than 5% of you will finish this story. If you've ever faked expertise and then couldn't admit you were faking because too many people were depending on you, if you understand that sometimes intuition works better than training, if you believe that the universe has a sense of humor about who it chooses to work through, keep reading, because what I discovered about healing, prophecy, and leadership after 30 years of making it up as I went along will change how you think about expertise, authenticity, and the mysterious ways that help sometimes comes from the least qualified sources. My name is Heals with Mystery, which sounds impressive and spiritual until you know the real story. I was born talks too much in the year the white man calls 1815 in a Pawnee village along the Platte River in what they now call Nebraska. I was not destined for spiritual greatness. I was not marked by the spirits. I did not have prophetic dreams or healing visions or any of the signs that indicated medicine man potential. I was just a guy. A regular ordinary guy who talked a lot, made people laugh, got in minor trouble, and had absolutely zero spiritual credibility. My actual talents were making decent arrows, telling entertaining stories, and being too stubborn to admit when I was wrong. That was it. That was my entire skill set. The real medicine man of our village was an ancient elder named seen.Here, a genuine spiritual practitioner who had trained for 40 years, knew every healing herb, performed ceremonies with perfect precision, and could actually communicate with the spirit world. Everyone respected him. He was the real thing. I was 22 years old and trying to court a girl named Morning Rain. She was beautiful, intelligent, and deeply spiritual, the kind of woman who valued wisdom and medicine knowledge. She had no interest in a guy who just made arrows and told jokes. I want a husband who understands the sacred, she told me when I tried to court her. Someone who sees beyond the physical world. Someone touched by the spirits. I was an idiot. So I said, I have spiritual gifts. I just don't talk about them. Her eyes widened with interest. Really? What kind of gifts? Now I was trapped. Mima Lakota. I was trapped. I was trapped. About the future. Small things. I can sense when things are about to happen. This was a complete lie. I had never had a vision in my life. But Morning Rain was suddenly very interested. Tell me about your latest vision. I panicked and said the first thing that came to mind. I saw a white buffalo coming from the east. Within 7 days, white buffalo were incredibly rare and sacred. Seeing one was considered a powerful omen. I had basically just claimed to predict a miracle. I was such an idiot. If you truly saw this, Morning Rain said seriously, you should tell seen.Here. This is important. No, I said quickly. The vision told me to keep it private, just between us. The spirits are shy. She looked at me skeptically, but intrigued. 7 days. We'll see if your vision is true. I spent the next week absolutely terrified. What had I been thinking? There was no white buffalo coming. I had made it up to impress a girl. I was going to be exposed as a liar and humiliated in front of everyone, especially Morning Rain. Day 3 passed. Day 5. Day 6. No white buffalo. I was mentally preparing my excuse. The spirits sometimes show symbolic visions, not literal ones. When on the 7th day, a hunting party returned with the most shocking news. They had encountered a white buffalo calf, actual white buffalo, incredibly rare, spotted about 10 miles east of our village. They hadn't killed it. White buffalo were too sacred, but they had seen it, confirmed it, and were treating it as a major spiritual event. The entire village was buzzing with excitement and religious significance. And Morning Rain came running to find me, her face glowing with amazement. "You saw it. You truly saw it. Your vision was real." I was as shocked as anyone. But I couldn't admit that. "Yes," I said, trying to sound calm, while internally screaming. The spirit showed me. "Guys, I need you to understand that this should have been the moment I confessed. But I was 22 and stupid, and suddenly Morning Rain was looking at me like I was special." Comment below if you've ever told a lie that accidentally came true, and then you couldn't figure out how to admit it was luck. Have you ever stumbled into credibility you didn't earn? Because this moment, this impossible coincidence, set up 30 years of me pretending to know what I was doing. Word spread fast. Talks too much, had a vision about the white buffalo, and it came true exactly as he predicted. People started looking at me differently, respectfully, like maybe I wasn't just the village comedian. "seen.Here, the real medicine man, called me to his lodge. I heard about your vision," he said, studying me with those ancient eyes that seemed to see through everything. "Tell me about it." I described the vision I had made up, trying to sound authentic. He listened carefully, then said something that changed everything. "You have the gift, young one, untrained, raw, but real. The spirits have chosen you. You must begin your training." "I don't think I'm ready," I started. "The spirits don't care about ready," he interrupted. "When they choose you, you serve. Starting tomorrow, you will learn the medicine ways. You will become my apprentice." And just like that, I was training to be a medicine man based on one impossible coincidence and a lie I couldn't take back. The training was intense. seen.Here taught me about healing herbs, ceremonial protocols, prayer structures, diagnostic techniques, spiritual protection methods. I tried to learn, I really did, but I was terrible at it. I couldn't remember which herb was for which illness. I mixed up ceremonial procedures. I fell asleep during meditation. I was possibly the worst medicine man apprentice in Pawnee history. After 6 months, seen.Here looked at me with frustration. "You have the gift of vision, but you resist the structured learning. Perhaps your medicine is different from mine. Perhaps your path is intuition rather than knowledge. Perhaps I don't actually have a gift. And the white buffalo was just an incredible coincidence," I said, finally trying to confess. He shook his head. "The spirits don't do coincidence. You saw the buffalo. You predicted it exactly. That's real power. You just need to trust it instead of trying to learn my way." So I stopped trying to memorize everything and just started guessing, making things up based on what felt right in the moment. A woman came with stomach pain. I had no idea what was wrong with her. seen.Here would have asked detailed questions, examined her carefully, chosen specific herbs. I just looked at her and said the first thing that came to mind: "You ate something yesterday that your body doesn't like. Stop eating it for 7 days and drink only water boiled with..." I looked around at the herbs, picked one that smelled pleasant. This one. It was complete guesswork. I had zero idea what that herb did. She came back a week later, completely healed. "Your medicine worked perfectly. How did you know exactly what was wrong?" I had no idea. Pure luck. But now she was telling everyone that Young Talks Too Much had healing gifts. A hunter asked me to predict whether his next hunt would be successful. I had no visions about this, so I looked at him, noticed he seemed confident, and edged and guessed, "Yes, tomorrow at dawn you'll find elk near the river bend." He found elk exactly where I'd randomly guessed. Another successful prediction. A mother brought her child who had been crying for days. I didn't know what was wrong. I looked at the baby, said a made-up prayer over it, and gave the mother an herb that smelled soothing. "Put this in water, let the baby smell it while sleeping." The baby slept peacefully that night and stopped crying. The mother called it a miracle. This kept happening. Every random guess, every made-up ceremony, Every instinctive herb choice, they all worked. Not just sometimes, not mostly, basically always. I started to wonder if I was accidentally good at this despite having no idea what I was doing. When I was 25, seen.Here fell seriously ill. He was dying, and he knew it. He called me to his bedside and said, "You must take over as medicine man when I go. The village needs someone with spiritual power." But I don't. I started to confess. "You have the greatest gift I've ever seen," he interrupted, his old voice weak. "You work purely through intuition and vision. You don't need the traditional knowledge because the spirits guide you directly. Trust that. Trust yourself." He died 3 days later, and I became the village's medicine man at age 25. I was completely terrified and totally unqualified, but I couldn't refuse without dishonoring seen.Here's dying wish. So I just kept doing what I'd been doing, making it up as I went along, following instinct, guessing based on whatever felt right in the moment, and it kept working. A man with a wound that wouldn't heal. I had no idea how to treat infected wounds properly. So I cleaned it with water, applied a random paste of crushed leaves that smelled medicinal, and said a prayer I invented on the spot. The wound healed. A woman who couldn't get pregnant. I knew nothing about fertility medicine. I gave her a tea made from herbs I thought looked healthy, told her to sleep facing east for a month and make an offering to the moon. She got pregnant within 3 months. A warrior who needed protection before battle. I had no idea how to make protective medicine. I gave him a small stone that looked interesting, told him it had been blessed by the spirits in a dream, and said 3 sentences of made-up spiritual advice. He survived a battle where 6 other warriors died. My success rate was absurd. People came from other villages to seek my medicine. My reputation grew. Chiefs consulted me. I became known as the medicine man who sees what others cannot see. Mitakuye ate was guessing wildly and somehow always guessing right. By the time I was 35, I was the most respected spiritual leader in 4 territories. I had married Morning Rain, who still believed my white buffalo vision had been genuine. I had 3 children. I had political influence and social status. And I was absolutely terrified every single day that someone would discover I was a fraud. I tried to confess to Morning Rain once. What if I told you I don't actually know what I'm doing? That I'm just making good guesses? She laughed like I was joking. You're too humble. Everyone knows you have the strongest spiritual connection of any medicine man alive. Stop being modest. I couldn't tell her the truth. Too much depended on me now. Too many people trusted me. Too many lives were affected by my medicine. Then came the situation that nearly exposed everything. I was 43 years old when our band faced the worst crisis in living memory. A terrible sickness swept through the village. Something we'd never seen before, brought by white traders. People were dying. Children, elders, strong warriors. It didn't matter. The sickness killed indiscriminately. The chiefs came to me. You must heal them. Use your strongest medicine. The spirits speak to you. Ask them what to do. I had no idea what to do. This sickness was beyond anything I'd encountered. People were dying faster than I could even examine them. My usual strategy, guess something and hope it works, wasn't enough. This required real knowledge, real medicine, real spiritual power. I didn't have any of those things. I stood in the center of the village, surrounded by sick and dying people, their families looking at me with desperate hope, and I realized with complete clarity, I was a fraud. People were dying, and my luck had finally run out. I almost confessed everything right then. Almost said, I've been guessing for 20 years. I don't actually know what I'm doing. You need a real medicine man. Not me. But then I looked at their faces. They believed in me. Their belief was the only hope they had. If I destroyed that belief, they had nothing. So instead of confessing, I did something I'd never done before. I stopped trying to fake confidence and admitted my uncertainty while asking for help. This sickness is new, I said honestly. I don't have a clear vision about it yet. I need to seek guidance from the spirits through deep meditation. While I do that, I need you to help me. Tell me everything about the sickness, when it started, what the first symptoms are, who gets it worst, what makes it better or worse. The spirits speak through observation. Help me observe. People started sharing information. Old women described symptoms. Hunters noted that the sickness had come from the trading post. A child mentioned that the people who drank from a certain part of the river seemed to get sicker. I listened to everything, trying to find patterns, connections, anything that might give me a clue. And slowly, pieces started fitting together. The sickness came after trading with whites who had been sick. The people who got worst were those who drank from the river near the trading post. The few people who stayed in their lodges and drank only water from springs were less affected. I didn't know medicine, but I could see a pattern. This sickness was spreading through contact with sick people and contaminated water. Here's what we must do, I announced, making it up as I went along. The sickness comes from the contaminated river water and from touching sick people. Everyone must drink only from the pure springs in the hills. Those who are sick must stay in separate lodges with only 1 or 2 caretakers. Those who are sick must stay in separate lodges with only 1 or 2 caretakers. And everyone must boil all water before drinking it. These weren't spiritual visions. They were logical conclusions from observation. But I framed them as medicine guidance from the spirits. People followed my instructions. Not because they made logical sense. Most people didn't understand why these things would work, but because they trusted that my spiritual power had shown me the path, and it worked. The sickness stopped spreading. People who were going to die recovered. The crisis slowly resolved. Afterwards, the chiefs praised my powerful medicine. Your vision saved us, they said. The spirits showed you what to do. But I knew the truth. The spirits had shown me nothing. I had just paid attention, looked for patterns, and made educated guesses. The same thing I'd been doing for 20 years. That's when I started to understand something important. Maybe there was no difference. Maybe paying attention, looking for patterns, trusting your intuition, and making educated guesses was how the spirits work through people. Maybe I had been doing real medicine all along, just not the way I thought medicine was supposed to work. I was 50 years old when the US government forced us to sign treaties and move toward reservation life. Everything was changing. The old ways were being challenged, and our people needed guidance about how to navigate this new world. The chiefs turned to me. What do the spirits say? Should we fight or adapt? Should we resist or compromise? I had no visions about this, no spiritual insights, but I had spent 50 years observing people, patterns and outcomes. So I gave them my honest assessment. The spirits show me that we are facing a flood, I said. You cannot fight a flood with weapons. You cannot stop it with courage. A flood doesn't care about bravery. You must either move to higher ground or learn to swim. Fighting the flood just drowns you faster. This wasn't mystical prophecy. It was practical wisdom disguised as spiritual guidance. But it helped our leaders make decisions that kept our people alive through devastating changes. I'm 52 years old now, and I've been a medicine man for 30 years, based on one lucky guess about a white buffalo. I've healed hundreds of people, using methods I invented on the spot. I've made predictions that came true even though I was just guessing. I've guided my people through crises using spiritual wisdom that was really just careful observation and common sense. And I've learned something crucial. The difference between a fraud and a healer isn't always knowledge. Sometimes it's just whether you care enough to pay attention, whether you trust yourself enough to follow intuition, whether you're honest enough to say, I don't know, let's figure it out together. I finally told Morning Rain the truth last year. The whole truth. The white buffalo guess. The 3 decades of making it up. Everything. She listened to my confession, then laughed. You think I didn't know? You knew? Of course I knew. You're my husband. I've watched you prepare medicine for 30 years. I've seen you panic before ceremonies. I've noticed that you're making educated guesses, not receiving divine visions. I've always known. Then why did you let me continue? Because it works, she said simply. You care about people. You pay attention to details. You trust your instincts. You admit when you're uncertain. Those things make you a good healer, even if you don't have traditional training or spiritual visions. The people don't need you to be perfect. They need you to try your best. And you always have. Last month, a young man came to me asking to train as a medicine man. He reminded me of myself at 22, eager but uncertain, wanting to help but not sure how. "Do you have visions?" he asked me. "How do I know if the spirits have chosen me?" I thought about lying, about maintaining the mystique, about pretending I had some special connection to the spiritual world. Then I decided to tell him something closer to the truth. "The spirits choose people who pay attention," I said. "People who care enough to observe carefully. People who are willing to guess and learn from their mistakes. People who admit when they're uncertain, but try anyway. If you can do those things, you'll be a good medicine man. The rest, the ceremonies, the herbs, the prayers, you'll learn as you go." "But what about visions, prophecies, spiritual power?" "Sometimes those things come," I said carefully. "But sometimes what looks like spiritual power is just someone who's willing to trust their intuition, make educated guesses, and pay attention to patterns others miss. Both can heal, both can guide, both can help." He looked disappointed, like he wanted me to promise him supernatural gifts. But he started training anyway, and I've watched him learn the same lesson I did. Caring and paying attention is its own kind of medicine. Here's what I finally understand after 30 years of being a fake medicine man. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is memorizing which herb treats which illness. Wisdom is observing the patient, noticing what others miss, trusting your gut about what might help. I never had much knowledge, but I accidentally developed wisdom by being forced to rely on observation and intuition instead of rote learning. Was I a fraud? Technically, yes. I claimed visions I didn't have, performed ceremonies I invented, made predictions that were really just guesses. But did I help people? Also, yes. I healed the sick, guided the confused, helped my people survive impossible situations. So what am I really? A lucky guesser who stumbled into effectiveness? An intuitive healer who worked outside traditional structures? A fraud who accidentally did good work? All of those? None of those? I don't know. And after 30 years, I'm finally comfortable not knowing. If this story moved you, share it. Share it if you've ever faked expertise and then couldn't admit it. Share it if you've discovered that intuition sometimes works better than training. Share it if you understand that help can come from unexpected sources, including people who have no idea what they're doing. And remember, sometimes the people who seem most confident are secretly guessing. Sometimes the experts are making it up as they go. Sometimes wisdom looks less like knowledge and more like paying attention and caring enough to try. That is my story. That is how I became the most respected medicine man in 4 territories by making it up for 30 years. And whether I was a fraud or a healer or something in between, I know this. I tried my best, I cared about people, and somehow that was enough. To everyone who trusted me over these 30 years, thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. Your faith made me better than I was. To everyone who's faking it, pay attention, care deeply, trust your intuition. Sometimes that's all the medicine anyone needs. The spirits work in mysterious ways. Maybe one of those ways is through people who have no idea what they're doing but keep showing up anyway. Comment below. Have you ever faked expertise and then been effective anyway? Have you ever discovered that intuition was better than training? Share your story of accidental success.